The Empire's sector was quiet, too quiet. Stars stretched endlessly, their cold light glinting off massive alien warships that drifted like dark shadows in space. Every ship was on high alert, every crew was tense. No one dared speak too loudly. The aliens called this place the heart of order. It was supposed to be the safest place in the galaxy, firmly under the Empire's control. Nothing could disturb it. Nothing, that is, until the human ship appeared. The first sign came as a small blip on the Empire's long-range sensors. Most commanders simply ignored it. Humans were considered primitive, a footnote in galactic history. A single ship could do nothing against the might of the Empire's fleets. But this blip was different. It moved far too fast. It appeared in a location where it should not have been possible, and then, just as suddenly as it arrived, it disappeared. On the bridge of the flagship, General Kale stared at the main tactical screen, his many eyes narrowing. "Impossible," he hissed, his voice a low growl. "Sensors are clean. There is nothing there." His lieutenant, trembling slightly, pointed a slender appendage at the readings. "Sir, it appeared again. This time, it's close to the 3rd Patrol Fleet." Kale's sharp claws drummed a nervous rhythm against the cool metal of the console. "Bring me the fleet's status." Now, the report came in like a dagger to the heart. The 3rd Patrol Fleet had vanished. No debris, no distress signals, no energy signatures, just gone. An unnerving silence fell over the bridge. Panic began to ripple through the sector. The Empire had known war. It had crushed rebellions, but this was a different kind of fear. A cold, creeping dread. Whispers spread through the comms channels, carried from one alien vessel to another. "Humans, they are not like us." Meanwhile, the human battleship floated silently, a phantom among the stars. Its hull was battered but resilient, covered in strange markings and advanced technology the aliens could not comprehend. Inside, the human crew moved with a calm, focused precision. Every action was measured, deliberate, and confident. Captain Elena Torres stood on the bridge, her presence commanding without a single raised word. Her crew knew exactly what to do. "Prepare the next jump," she said softly, her voice steady. "Keep them guessing. Always keep them guessing." The human ship's engines hummed to life. It moved not in straight, predictable lines, but in bizarre, almost impossible patterns that baffled the Empire's senses. Every movement was a feint, every attack was a surprise, and every disappearance was terrifying. Far across the sector, the Empire's admirals argued furiously. "We must strike immediately." One cried, his voice shrill with urgency. "We have to destroy it before it reaches the inner colonies." "Impossible," another shouted back. "We don't even know where it will appear next. Our scouts have lost it 3 times in a single hour." As they debated, small warning signals blipped across the Empire's command screens. Reports from distant patrols flooded in, filled with confusion and dread. Entire fleets were vanishing without a trace. Communications arrays were failing. It was as if the humans had invented a new kind of war, one the Empire was completely unprepared for. On the human battleship, Captain Torres watched the chaos unfold, a faint smile on her lips. "They're scared," she said. "Good. Fear is a weapon." Her first officer, Lieutenant Mark Chen, stood beside her, his expression serious. "They won't wait forever, Captain. Eventually, they'll send everything they have at us." Torres nodded slowly. "Then we'll be ready. Let them come. Let them believe they control this sector. They are about to learn. Humans do not bow. Humans do not run. Humans fight." The silence of space returned, But it was different now. The stars seemed colder, darker, as if they, too, sensed the coming storm. Suddenly, alarms blared across every command station in the Empire's fleet. The human ship had appeared again. This time, it was right inside the patrol's primary communication array. It fired a single, precise pulse of energy, not enough to destroy, but enough to send a clear, chilling warning. A message: we are here, and we are not afraid. Every alien crew member froze, their eyes locked on the empty space where the pulse had originated. Fear, deep and icy, spread like wildfire. The Empire had faced countless enemies before, but none like this. Humans were not predictable. Humans were not logical. Humans were terrifying. Inside her ship, Captain Torres watched the Empire's panic through stolen sensor scans. She felt no joy in the destruction, only a steely determination. Every battle, every maneuver, every pulse of energy sent a single, simple message to the galaxy. Humans were not to be underestimated. The sector that had once felt so safe now trembled in a silent dread. Every alien ship was on high alert. Every commander was sweating under the immense weight of fear. And through it all, the lone human battleship moved like a ghost, striking and vanishing, leaving nothing but terror in its wake. The Empire would not rest. They would come with overwhelming force, but by the time they did, they would learn what humanity had always known, that courage, intelligence, and sheer determination can shake even the mightiest of powers. And in the vast, empty void of space, the silence before the storm was more terrifying than any sound imaginable. The Empire was in disbelief. Entire fleets were vanishing from their sensors. Communication signals simply ceased, and through it all, a lone human ship remained completely untouched. It moved through the cosmos like a phantom, untouchable, unpredictable, impossible. On the bridge of that human battleship, Captain Alina Torres leaned forward, her eyes scanning the holographic map of the Empire's sector. Countless red blips marked patrols, supply convoys, and massive warships. She traced their intricate routes with a single fingertip. "They're predictable," she whispered. "Every last one of them." Lieutenant Mark Chen looked up from his console. "But Captain, there are hundreds of ships out there. How can one ship possibly?" Torres offered a faint, confident smile. "It's not one ship, Mark. It's one idea. One crew, one human mind." The ship's engines hummed with a quiet power. Then, with a sudden, impossible twist, it vanished from all sensors, leaving the Empire's commanders staring at a blank patch of space. Moments later, it reappeared directly behind a squadron of patrol ships. Before the alien crews could even process what was happening, silent pulses of energy erupted from the human vessel, disabling the patrols without destroying them. Panic spread through the Imperial fleet like wildfire. Admiral Cale's voice trembled over the comms network. One of his aides whispered, trying to sound calm, "Calm yourself, General. It's just one ship. One human ship." Cale's claws tightened on his console until the metal groaned. One human ship that can neutralize entire fleets without warning is not a small thing. Across the galaxy, Imperial scouts attempted to flank the human vessel. They converged from multiple directions, certain they had finally trapped their elusive prey. On the human bridge, the crew watched the scanners, relaxed and calculating. Torres gave a single calm order: divide and confuse them. Lure them into the triangle. The alien scouts took the bait, drawn like moths to a flame into a carefully laid trap. And then, as if the ship itself were alive, it shimmered and vanished again. When the baffled scouts returned to the last known coordinates, the humans were already behind them, in a perfect strike position. The pulse weapons fired. Ships were crippled in seconds. Alien crews descended into chaos. "It's impossible," one of them screamed. They predict our every move." On her bridge, Torres shook her head. "No, we don't predict them. We understand them. Strategy, timing, and courage, that's all it takes." In the Empire's high command, alarms blared and red lights flashed. Generals shouted, blaming each other for the catastrophe. "We underestimated them," one roared. "They are not a threat to be respected. They are a force of pure chaos." This chaos even infected the Empire's spies. Every attempt to infiltrate or even scan the human ship failed. Electronic eyes went blind whenever the humans wanted them to. Even the fastest interceptors in the fleet couldn't catch a shadow that moved like a ghost. Back on the human battleship, the crew worked as one. Engineers fine-tuned the shields, energy officers rerouted power for the next jump, and weapons officers lined up the next strike. Every movement was precise, every decision was swift. There was no hesitation, no fear, no doubt. Humans, after all, thrive in danger. Torres walked the length of the bridge, her gaze passing over each crew member. "Remember," she said, her voice steady and clear, "we are outnumbered, yes, but we are never outsmarted. Let them fear us. Let them chase ghosts. Our job is simple. Survive, strike, and survive again." As she finished speaking, the ship executed another sudden, impossible jump. The Empire's fleet scrambled, sending hundreds of ships in a frantic pursuit. They had learned nothing. They could predict nothing. Every move the human ship made defied all logic the Empire had ever known, and the humans watched them come, calm, confident, ready. Somewhere in the far reaches of the scepter, Admiral Cale clenched his claws. "One ship," he muttered to the silence of his command center. "One human ship, and yet it moves like a god. How can such creatures even exist?" The sector fell silent again, but this silence was different. It wasn't peaceful, it was tense, coiled, and full of fear. The humans were out there, moving unseen, striking without warning, leaving a trail of confusion and dread in their wake. "We are not here to destroy them all," she said quietly, "just enough to remind them, humans are never weak, and humans never forget." The Empire would soon learn that one human ship could change the rules of war, make the strongest fleets tremble, and send shockwaves through an entire galaxy. And in the quiet of space, the humans moved onward, unstoppable, unpredictable, and unbreakable. The Empire could wait no longer. Fear, like a creeping shadow, had reached every corner of the sector. Something had to be done. The humans could not be allowed to roam freely, striking without consequence. "Assemble every available ship," he barked. "We will crush the human battleship. No excuses, no mercy." Meanwhile, miles away in a quiet region of space, the human battleship drifted like a ghost. Lieutenant Mark Chen frowned, his concern etched on his face. Nothing without strategy, Mark. Remember, humans don't fight like them. We fight smart. We fight unpredictable. And above all, we fight with courage. The human ship moved with silent, deadly precision. Its advanced sensors detected the Empire's fleet far off, a sprawling web converging from multiple directions. The aliens were confident, arrogant even, thinking they had trapped the lone human ship. One by one, their patrol ships were disabled by quick, precise energy pulses. On his flagship, Admiral Cale roared in frustration, his claws scraping against the console. It twisted through the battlefield, its every movement a calculated trap, each strike perfectly timed. Pulse after pulse, the human battleship disabled the fleet's ships, forcing retreat after retreat. There was no fear, no hesitation, only calculated strikes and flawless evasion. Remember, she said quietly to her crew, fear is the most powerful weapon of all. Fear had been planted deeper than ever before. They are not just smart, they are something else, something we do not understand. Not yet. And across the stars, Captain Torres allowed herself a faint smile. The Empire could wait no longer. Fear, a corrosive acid, had eaten its way into the very heart of their control. Reports flooded in from every corner of the sector: destroyed fleets, vanished patrols, and mysterious energy pulses that left no trace. Something had to be done. The humans, this audacious, unpredictable species, could not be allowed to roam freely, striking without consequence. On the bridge of his colossal dreadnought, Admiral Cale issued the order that would echo across the stars. "Assemble every available ship," he barked, his voice sharp with authority. "We will find the human battleship. We will crush it. No excuses. No mercy." The response was immediate and overwhelming. A magnificent, terrifying armada took shape. Hundreds of alien warships, each a sleek and powerful instrument of destruction, formed a fleet the likes of which the sector had never seen. On every bridge, every crew member felt the tension. This mission was more than just a battle. It was a statement. Meanwhile, adrift in a quiet, star-dusted region of space, the human battleship waited. Captain Alina Torres stood before the main tactical display, her eyes scanning the latest transmissions intercepted from the Empire. "They're coming," she said, her voice a calm anchor in the silent tension of the bridge. "And they believe they have the advantage." Beside her, Lieutenant Mark Chen frowned, the holographic data reflecting in his eyes. "Sir, they outnumber us by hundreds to one. One mistake, one miscalculation, and we're nothing but dust." Torres shook her head, a faint, confident smile touching her lips. "Numbers mean nothing without strategy, Mark. Remember, we don't fight like they do. We fight smart. We fight unpredictably. We fight with courage." The human ship, a lone wolf among stars, moved with silent, deadly precision. Long-range sensors painted a chilling picture. The Empire's fleet, a vast net of light years converging from multiple directions. The aliens were confident, their formations tight and disciplined, certain they had trapped their elusive prey. And then, just as the net was about to close, just as the Empire tasted the sweet tang of victory, the humans struck. The battleship's engines flared to life, not for escape, but for attack. It executed sudden, impossible maneuvers, defying the known laws of physics and starship combat. It vanished from Imperial sensors for seconds at a time, reappearing in unexpected locations. Alien gunners fired blindly into empty space, their powerful energy beams hitting nothing but the void. One by one, patrol ships on the outer perimeter were disabled by quick, precise energy pulses. The humans weren't aiming for the hulls. They were surgically targeting critical systems and engines, weapons, shields, leaving the mighty warships dead in the water, bewildered and helpless. Admiral Cale roared in frustration, his claws slamming against the console. "They vanish. How is this possible? Our scanners, our weapons, they can't touch them." The human ship twisted and danced through the chaotic battlefield like a ghost. Each movement was a feint, each strike perfectly timed. Alien captains, trained in rigid, predictable warfare, were thrown into utter confusion. Commands overlapped, fleets collided, and in the panic, friendly fire incidents began to mount. The humans weren't just fighting a battle. They were conducting an orchestra of chaos. "Focus on their shields," Captain Torres commanded, her voice steady. "We don't need to destroy them. We just need to make them respect us. Pulse, after disabling Pulse, lanced out from the human ship, forcing retreat after retreat. Entire sections of the Imperial fleet were paralyzed, not by damage, but by fear and confusion. The Empire had sent its best, its finest, and a single human ship had turned their grand strategy into a humiliating spectacle. The Imperial fleet broke formation in a cascading panic. Communication channels became a mess of conflicting orders and panicked shouts. Through it all, the human battleship remained a beacon of calm, precision, and lethality. No fear, no hesitation, only calculated strikes and flawless evasion. Torres leaned back in her command chair, watching the mighty Empire stumble over its own feet. "Remember," she said quietly to her crew, "fear is the most powerful weapon of all. Let them feel it. Let them learn that humans do not surrender, humans do not run, humans fight, especially when the odds are against them." By the time Admiral Cale managed to regain a fraction of control over his shattered fleet, the human battleship was gone. It had vanished as mysteriously as it appeared, leaving behind a graveyard of disabled ships and stunned, humiliated officers. Fear had been planted deeper than ever before. In the ringing silence that followed, Cale muttered, almost to himself, "They are not just smart, they are something else. Something we do not understand, something we cannot stop. Not yet." And across the stars, Captain Torres allowed herself a small, faint smile. The first counterattack had failed. The Empire had been taught a lesson it would never forget. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The Empire was furious, its pride shattered, its fleets humiliated, and the human battleship, the source of their shame, remained free, untouchable. Admiral Cale had no other choice. He would unleash the deadliest fleet in the entire sector, the one that had never known failure to finally crush the humans. Hundreds of ships gathered in perfect, menacing formation, bristling with advanced weapons and impenetrable shields. At the very center sat Cale's personal flagship, a towering dreadnought armed with experimental energy cannons, weapons capable of obliterating entire sectors of space. Every alien commander on every bridge was tense, their desire for glory warring with a newfound fear of failure. Today, Cale's voice boomed across the fleet-wide comms. We end this. We crush the humans. Nothing will survive. Far across the star-dusted void, Captain Elena Torres watched the enemy fleet's movement on her holographic display. "They're coming," she said, her voice a calm counterpoint to the impending storm. "And they think they can trap us." Beside her, Lieutenant Mark Chen swallowed hard, his eyes wide. "Sir, this fleet is enormous. Hundreds of ships. We're outnumbered at least 50 to 1. Torres's eyes narrowed, a glint of steel in them. "Yes, and that is precisely why they will fail. Humans fight differently. We do not panic. We do not wait. We create our own advantage." The human crew moved with practiced efficiency. Shields were reinforced to their absolute limits. Weapon systems calibrated to microscopic tolerances, and the engines hummed, ready for impossibly sudden jumps. Every crew member knew their role. Every movement was precise, every decision deliberate. There was no fear, only focus. The battle began. The Empire's fleet moved like a tidal wave of metal and fire, its arms stretching wide to surround the lone human ship. Blinding energy beams lanced across the void. Missiles streaked through space like angry comets. The deafening roar of cosmic war filled the empty darkness. Yet, the human battleship did not panic. It twisted, it turned, and then it simply vanished, leaving empty trails where the aliens fired blindly into nothingness. "Focus fire on the front shields." Cale roared in frustration. "Destroy them now." But the humans anticipated every move. Athena, the ship's AI, calculated hundreds of possibilities every second, guiding Torres along the safest, most devastating path. The battleship suddenly reappeared, not in front of the enemy, but behind their flanking squadron, disabling the key weapon systems of a dozen ships with a single, elegant energy pulse. Alien crews scrambled, shouting conflicting orders, their disciplined formations collapsing into chaos. They couldn't comprehend what was happening. Even the Empire's most lethal weapons proved useless. Energy beams seemed to bend around the human ship. Shields absorbed attacks that should have vaporized them instantly, and the battleship's engines performed impossible jumps, appearing where no ship could logically be. "Impossible," Cale hissed, his claws tightening on his command chair. "One ship, and yet it moves like a god. Every tactic we have, it anticipates." Torres watched calmly as enemy formations collapsed, retreating in confusion. She did not gloat. Humans had learned long ago that victory was earned through intelligence, courage, and discipline, not arrogance. In a final, desperate act, the Empire's flagship fired everything it had. A massive, sector-wide energy wave designed to obliterate the human ship from existence. Torres made her decision. With a sudden, precise jump, the human battleship vanished from all sensors. The wave of absolute destruction passed through empty space, leaving only the stunned silence of the alien ships in its wake. When the human ship reappeared, It was behind the Empire's fleet once again, striking a critical cluster of ships essential to the enemy's command structure. Panic spread like wildfire. Communication lines failed. Ships collided in their haste to escape. The once perfect fleet, the pride of the Empire, crumbled under the crushing weight of its own fear and confusion. "Retreat," Cale screamed, his voice cracking with the realization that the battle was utterly lost. "Fall back, regroup, do not engage." The human battleship watched the fleeing fleet from a distance. No more shots were fired, no weapons discharged. The humans didn't need to finish them. Fear had already done the work. Torres leaned back in her chair, her voice quiet but firm, echoing across the bridge. "Let them run. Let them go home and rethink everything they know. Humans do not need to destroy everything to win. We only need to survive, and make the enemy respect us." The Empire had struck back with all its might and failed spectacularly. The humans had proven, once again, that courage, intelligence, and strategy could overcome even the deadliest odds. In the empty silence that followed, the entire sector held its breath. The Empire was wounded, humiliated, and terrified, and the human battleship moved onward, calm, confident, and unstoppable. The galaxy had never seen anything like it, and it would never, ever forget. The galaxy had begun to whisper. They were curious, cautious, and a little bit afraid. Tall, elegant creatures with skin like polished obsidian studied holographic maps of the imperial expanse. The data was irrefutable. Patrols that had terrorized trade routes for centuries were now silent, their wreckage a testament to a new power. And through it all, a single human ship moved freely, a phantom haunting the Empire's own territory. Council leader Vera, her voice a series of soft, resonant chimes, finally broke the silence. "This human," she began, her gaze fixed on the glowing map. "It is unlike any species we have ever encountered. Biologically small, almost fragile, yet they wield a power that defies our understanding. They dismantle the Empire with an ease that is both terrifying and fascinating. They do not seem to fear. They do not hesitate. What are we to make of this anomaly?" "We cannot risk allowing them to gain a foothold here." Vera slowly inclined her head. "Or," she countered, her tone measured, "they could be the very ally we have been waiting for. If we approach them with care, with respect, their strength could become our own in the fight against imperial tyranny. But you are right about one thing. We must be cautious. Humans, it seems, are a species defined by their unpredictability, far away, deep in what was once secure imperial space. Captain Alina Torres and her crew navigated the silent dark. They were not naive. They felt the eyes upon them, the unseen watchers in the cosmic shadows, the faint pings of distant sensors monitoring their every move. "They're curious," she said, her voice calm in the quiet of the bridge. They want to see what humanity is truly capable of. Good. Curiosity is a weapon we can use to our advantage. Lieutenant Mark Chen, ever the pragmatist, looked uneasy. Torres's gaze was steady, her confidence a palpable force on the bridge. We don't know for certain, Mark, but that's where we excel. Humans have a knack for turning curiosity into trust. We build bridges where others build walls. And if these species respect strength, strategy, and intelligence, melody. My recommendation is to proceed with cautious, subtle diplomacy. On cue, the human battleship began to emit a new series of faint signals. They were not aggressive. They were not threatening. They were simply a declaration, broadcast into the void for anyone listening. Humans exist. Humans are strong. And humans can choose to cooperate, or remain a solitary, unstoppable force. They are not asking for tribute. They do not make demands. They only reveal themselves, confident in their own power. Perhaps they are not just another threat. Perhaps they are the catalyst for a change the galaxy desperately needs. On the bridge of his ship, staring out at the star-strewn canvas, Captain Torres spoke, as if to the galaxy itself. We respect those who are strong. Those who act with wisdom may find themselves walking beside us as equals, but those who act foolishly will be left behind in the dust of history. A fundamental shift was occurring across the sector. The Galactic Empire, the ancient, monolithic power, had been challenged, humiliated, and exposed. The humans had proven their dominance not merely through superior firepower, but through sheer audacity, intelligence, and unwavering courage. And now, the other powers were taking notice. For the first time, humans were no longer the isolated newcomers. They were becoming a symbol, a legend. The final battle had come. The Empire, humiliated and utterly desperate, gathered every last ship it could muster. The humans were no longer just a rumor, a shadow in the dark. They were a threat the Empire could no longer ignore. Their fleets bristled with weapons, shields glowing with deadly energy. Every Imperial commander knew the cost of failure. On the bridge of the lone human battleship, Captain Elena Torres stood resolute. Her crew was calm, their faces a mixture of preparation and quiet confidence. "They think numbers can win," she said softly, her voice carrying across the bridge. "They think fear can control us. They are wrong." Lieutenant Mark Chun studied the enemy fleet on the holographic display, a sea of red icons swarming towards them. "Sir, this is the largest force we've ever faced. Hundreds of ships, all targeting us at once. Torres simply nodded. Then we do what humans always do. We fight smart, we fight together, and we never give up. Athena, the ship's AI, processed thousands of enemy maneuvers in an instant. Probability of survival: 87% if optimal strategy is applied, the calm voice reported. Recommend dividing the enemy into sectors and utilizing surprise attacks. The human battleship moved. Its engines flared to life, shields shimmered into existence, and weapon systems powered up. The Empire's flagship fired the first salvo, a massive, blinding beam of energy meant to obliterate their target in one shot. "Jump," Torres commanded. In an instant, the battleship vanished, only to reappear a moment later directly behind a squadron of Imperial ships. Pulses of energy lashed out, disabling their weapons. Enemy shields collapsed under the onslaught, and chaos erupted across the enemy fleet. Ships collided as they tried to reorient. Communication lines failed. Panic spread like wildfire. The humans moved like a storm, striking, vanishing, and reappearing with impossible speed. Every strike was precise, every maneuver completely unpredictable. The Empire's commanders screamed in frustration over their coms. How can one ship do this? How can humans move like ghosts? Neutral races, observing the conflict from a safe distance, watched in absolute awe. The humans' skill, their courage, and their brilliant strategy were unlike anything they had ever witnessed. Inspired by this incredible display of intelligence and bravery, some began to send small fleets of their own in support, joining the fray. The battle raged across the entire sector. For every Imperial ship, there was a human counter. For every Imperial strategy, there was a human tactic designed to outsmart it. Slowly but surely, the Empire's vast fleet began to crumble. Their largest and deadliest ships fell one by one, not to brute force, but to cunning, precision, and an unshakable will to survive. At last, Admiral Cale's flagship stood alone, battered and surrounded. He stared at the human battleship on his main view screen, realizing with dawning horror that defeat was inevitable. "Impossible," he muttered, his voice trembling. "One ship, and it defeats us all." Torres watched the flagship's systems fail, one after another. She did not celebrate. Humans never killed without reason. Instead, she sent a signaler message that could be heard across the sector, broadcast on all channels. "We are here. We fight. We endure. And we will not be stopped." The Empire retreated, its once mighty fleet scattered in disarray. Humiliation and fear had replaced their arrogance and control. Humans had proven, once again, that courage, intelligence, and sheer determination could shake even the mightiest powers in the galaxy. Across the cosmos, word of the human battleship spread like a legend. Stories of their bravery, their strategy, and their resilience traveled from one star system to another. Humans were no longer unknown. They were a force, a symbol. In the quiet that followed the storm of battle, Captain Torres looked at her crew, a proud smile on her face. "This is only the beginning," she said. "The galaxy will remember humans. They will know we fight not because we must, but because we can and because we never surrender." The human battleship moved onward through the stars, leaving behind shockwaves that rippled across the galaxy. Fear, respect, and awe followed wherever they went. The humans had won. The Empire had learned a lesson it would never, ever forget, and the galaxy had changed forever. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tailies from the stars.